Then finally, the funding, which is the key reason or the key way that you're able to survive and you're able to grow the organization. There are various challenges which with scale are in place whenever you're growing. In terms of the various types of fundraising, you can either have a domestic fundraising for which you need details of the person, or you could have international for which you need to comply with the FCRA obligations, which we touched upon in the last webinar series. What are the checkpoints for the NGOs in terms of the funding? A lot of times there is ambiguity on what funds can be received domestically and what cannot be received domestically. There seems to be some ambiguity. So we've just tried to put in few things to clarify that it should not be the color of the money which determines the source. It's actually the citizenship of the person which determines whether the money is local or is foreign. So these are just some things which you should keep in mind whenever you're doing any funding. Then finally, you should never try and mix up the funding. You should try and keep an external funding record separate. There would be an internal income generating activities which would allow you to grow and in operations, and any surplus monies which are invested in the various modes that we discussed in the beginning of our presentation. They will help you generate money for long-term growth and sustainability of the organization. Again, we do appreciate that there are various reality concerns which will cause you to adapt your strategy. It's obviously easier to imagine that you would be getting money from the same donor for a long time. So you need to have a comprehensive long-term program and try and identify smaller chunks whenever you're looking to have funding coming in. There are a lot of restrictions at times which are placed by donors, but it's in your interest to have dialogues with the donors to identify that what are the reporting obligations and why they need those reporting obligations, to ensure that there is never any trust deficit and the relationship continues to grow as your activities bear fruit for the donor. There are also ways where you can associate with the government. There is the NGO Darpan program, which was started by the Niti Aayog. Again, we'd gone into details of that in the earlier webinar, but I thought it would be relevant just to reiterate that this is another source